Hello, I'm Cinemod470, and Spider-Man the new animated series is pretty good. Initially intended as an adaptation of the Ultimate Spider-Man comic, it was reworked as a continuation of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man due to the film's success. Though unfortunately, the show only had 13 episodes made, likely due to how expensive the CGI was at the time. However, its ambitious animation style is what causes the series to stand out among the roster of Spider-Man media. Though the series is set after the events of the Spider-Man film, it isn't a seamless continuation. Sure, Spider-Man's costume design matches, he has organic webbing, and the show references the Upside Down kiss and Norman Osborn's death. Quite often.
Harry, I get that you think Spider-Man killed your father.
On account of he did, and you can stop glorifying that murdering freak boy Spider-Man. The last few days of his life, he seemed different. I know he didn't deserve to die by Spider-Man's hands. Well, as long as you don't flip-flop back to Spider-Man.
Spider-Man? Don't worry, I know how much you hate him.
But the series ignores the love triangle between Peter, MJ, and Harry, how Peter rejected MJ's advances at the end of the film, and how MJ suspects Peter to be Spider-Man. The trio of friends also have different personalities to their movie counterparts, but not too dissimilar to their comic book source material. Despite those differences, it doesn't undermine the show's quality, and the characters are incredibly well written and have good chemistry.
Every time anyone anywhere asks you to do anything, you're like unavailable.
Not always. Okay. Hey, Pete, there's a party tonight at the Sigmas. Want to come?
I gotta study. How about if I come late?
He's not coming.
I'm serious.
He is so not coming.
Yeah, unless later means
Never.
Hello? I said I'm coming. What am I, invisible?
If Spectacular is the best adaptation of the high school period of Spider-Man, Tenace is the best adaptation of the college period. Peter is trying to make money from his photos while balancing Spider-Man and coursework. MJ is trying to kickstart her acting career, and Harry is getting ready to take over Oscorp. The college setting also has a more mature tone due to the series featuring on MTV, which was a major benefit since the show doesn't talk down to the spectators and isn't afraid to feature topics such as drug use, obsession, bullying, sexual innuendos, death and violence. Emphasis on the death and violence. Seriously, we see nosebleeds, gunshot wounds, fingers getting chopped off twice, amputation, decapitation, stab wounds, and electrocution. However, due to MTV's audience having a chronic fear of people over the age of 60, characters like Aunt May are absent, and Spider-Man is constantly on the run from the police, likely due to MTV's audience or the station itself having issues with authority figures.
So Spider-Man's in cahoots with street thugs now. Well, guess this one didn't count on getting double-crossed.
Didn't you hear me? Spider-Man saved me.
Yeah, right.
Hello? Good guy, saved your butt. Me.
On the ground now!
Considering that most comic book adaptations in the early 2000s were produced for a young demographic, the mature themes, tone, and writing really helped the series age like wine. And Spider-Man, at his core, is about growing up and dealing with the challenges that come at certain periods in life. So it fits that while in college, Peter would have to regularly deal with some pretty adult stuff. Though the CGI is quite dated, and at the time so expensive they had to release episodes in the order they could be finished, the animators knew how to work with their limitations. One of those limitations being how they rendered the character models. Peter's model was originally designed with baggier clothes to cover his muscles, but the animators had trouble formatting the folds, so instead gave him tight casual wear, and MJ couldn't have longer hair because it would clip through her shoulders. There's also times when Spider-Man bends in unnatural ways while fighting and hugging his girlfriend. And whenever Spider-Man's suit got damaged, the tears tended to be in the same place, likely due to the limited assets. The saving grace for the animation was the use of lighting and shadows, especially when characters are covered in neon light. It really sets the tone and gives each scene a unique atmosphere. The episode Law of the Jungle does it best. When the lights go out in the police station, the cops only have their flashlights to see, and the rest of the environment is caked in darkness. We then cut back to Peter, and the room is covered in red light, giving off this uneasy feeling. The lights in the next room go off as the policeman is being attacked. As Peter tries to get a better look, the cop is slammed against the glass between them. This animation also gives each villain's abilities a unique visual and sound effect. I mainly like this version of Spider-Man for the same reason I like Spectacular Spider-Man. He has a spine, though it can get a little crooked at times.
Give me the book.
Who's gonna miss some musty old paperback?
Not for us to decide.
So you blindly enforce the rules, that it? While I'm out there trying to help folks.
Uh-huh, like the pedestrians you almost hit with a truck? No, not them. You must mean the guard you nearly electrocuted.
You know what I think? You're jealous. You wish everyone liked you the way they like me.
I'm not going to ask twice.
Spidey doesn't get intimidated, he holds his principles firm, and his one-liners are actually clever, which is a golden rule when writing Spider-Man. He should annoy his villains, not his audience.
Doing a little past life regression? Let me guess, you used to be a hitman for Genghis Khan.
I underestimated your tracking skills, Spider-Man.
You underestimated 21st century technology. I matched frequencies with your cell phone. A woman in your position, Lotus, I believe, should be more careful. What? No acceptance speech? You didn't thank your manager, your agent, your assistant, your shrink, the Dalai Lama? Good call. I really love what you've done with the room. Yeah, cute trick. Where were you when we had an energy crisis? That never happens.
How'd you track me?
You have a thing for 30mm carbine tracers. Highly illegal and sold right here. Oh, I forgot. You're not a paying customer, are you?
Peter also has a believable sense of competence, not only in beating bad guys, but being able to find out what their evil scheme is, like when he has to come up with an antidote to save Flash from a harmful drug, or trying to find out the identity of one of his villains. Also, Spider-Man's spider sense is used in a unique way, similar to the Raimi movie and the earliest Spider-Man comic. It doesn't just go off when he's in danger, it alerts him to other people in danger, and at times is very specific, though it can be inconsistent. They're actually doing something very similar in Miles' comic, expanding the spider sense to figure out where the danger is. It's a cool idea, but the usage of the spider sense needed to be more consistent to be taken seriously. Though he isn't as dorky as Maguire, Neil Patrick Harris's Peter can be obtuse when it comes to MJ's advances, so he often has to lean on Harry for advice.
Help me, Harry One Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Well, I got only one piece of advice. Get out. Get out while you still can.
And Harris's performance is so good he manages to shift his tone when playing Peter and Spider-Man. Not enough to sound deeper, just more confident.
911 emergency.
This is an anonymous tip. There's going to be another attempt on the mayor's life.
May I have your name and the address you're calling from?
If I told you that, it wouldn't be anonymous, would it?
I get that a lot of people like dorky Peter, and quite a few writers think that's how Peter should act, because it's more relatable. But I feel like that aspect of the character has just been overused, and Tanas putting less emphasis on Peter being a dork feels like a breath of fresh air. Though Tanas Harry has more personality than his movie counterpart, 60% of his screen time is him telling people about Spider-Man killing his dad.
On account of he did? On account of Spider-Man murdering my father? Hey, did Spider-Man take the chem midterm? Why not throw him into the mix? They're both murderers. Idiots. They have no idea what he really is. Murderer.
Other than that, he's quite chill. Because Harry's inheriting his dad's company, he doesn't have the same worries Peter does when handling finances and attending classes, which contrasts them quite well. Harry is also invested in Peter and MJ getting together, so he'll give Peter advice or encourage MJ to be patient with Peter not always being present. In one episode, Harry has this brief subplot on the anniversary of Norman's death, where he's clearing out his father's office and starts to piece together that Norman was the Green Goblin.
I knew my father had military contracts, but this stuff is weird beyond belief. Drugs for human enhancement? And get this, wide area fragmentation explosive round. Wafer.
Must be really top secret to keep it in his own desk.
What the episode does well is that it draws focus to the experience most orphans have when they lose their parents young. They have an idea of who they were, but not a true understanding, so when new information comes to light that contradicts that idea, it can be rather shocking. Had the series continued away from the Raimi trilogy, it would have been interesting to see if Harry discovered the truth about his father and how that would affect his view on Spider-Man. All we got in the movies were a hallucination, for some unexplained reason. Avenge me! No! Harry discovers a hidden stash of goblin gear, and he goes off on Peter. Shut up! But what's a Spider-Man story without his love interest? Or love triangle?
2 women, both into Peter. If he plays his cards right. Nah.
Like Harry, Mary Jane also has more personality than her film counterpart. In fact, her character closely matches the source material as this free-spirited, flirtatious, aspiring actress. Another difference is that TASM MJ does have goals beyond just being Peter's girlfriend, being a successful actress and enjoying her time in college with her friends, and both are important plot points throughout the show. As Peter's love interest, MJ's scenes with him when watched in a vacuum are fine, but when looking at them chronologically, their relationship doesn't have a consistent flow. Because the show was partially episodic and connected to the Raimi movies, the writers probably couldn't move the relationship any further than will they, won't they. The show's second love interest, Indy, is an original character to the series and acts as the third point to the traditional Spider-Man love triangle. Though thankfully she's also a well-rounded character and not the main character's side chick who's just there to fill the runtime. Indy is a news researcher with the goals of becoming a famous reporter. She supports Peter with his photography career by buying his footage for the news broadcast, while also using her connections to help Spider-Man with crime fighting, kind of like MJ in Insomniac Spider-Man. Indy also contrasts well with MJ, since her intelligence can match Peter's and she's upfront with her feelings and acts on them, whereas MJ prefers flirting and wants Peter to make the first move. But like MJ, Indy and Peter's relationship has some well-written scenes, but it doesn't have a natural flow. Seriously, this is the chronological order of Peter's relationship with MJ and Indy. Episode 1, MJ hints that she wants a relationship with Peter, and the episode ends with them kissing. Episode 2, no mention of the kiss, and MJ keeps hinting that she wants a relationship and invites Peter to her show, but he can't make it due to Spider-Man shenanigans, and the episode ends with her hanging out with some guy. What are the odds his name is Paul? Episode 3, MJ kisses Peter because she admires how good of a friend he is to Harry. Episode 4, she kisses Spider-Man not knowing his identity. Neither kiss is referenced again. Episode 5, not much happens because we're focusing on Harry's love life. Episode 6, Peter meets Indy who helps him sell his footage. MJ finally asks Peter out to a movie and he says yes. Peter delivers a custom CD to Indy as a thank you. They both get put in a hostage situation and she kisses him at the end. MJ catches him kissing Indy and she runs away mortified. The kiss is, you guessed it, never mentioned again. Episode 7, MJ wants to connect more with Peter to develop their relationship by trading personal secrets. And though Indy is present in the episode, she doesn't act like they're in a romantic relationship. It isn't really till episode 9 that there's some relationship consistency with Peter casually dating Indy but still having some residual feelings for MJ, and he has to make a choice between them. A hero is only as good as his villains, and Spider-Man has probably the best rogues gallery in all of Marvel.
Spider-Man swallowed the bait.
Sucked in the whole hero package like it was clean air, just like you predicted, Kingpin.
Poor little Spider-Man can't get no respect.
Michael Clarke Duncan reprises his role as Kingpin. His design is definitely creative as he uses his cane like a penguin umbrella with multiple unique weapon settings. And Duncan knows how to make the character sound imposing.
Now that the TX-1 is ours, once my men finish installing the uplink, You can think of these as cash registers.
But as a character, he's a walking fat joke. I'm not trying to body shame, I mean 90% of his dialogue is fat jokes.
If there's even one fry missing.
Boss, I don't eat that crap.
Good.
Nice touch. You guys into Happy Meals?
FBI protocol is none of your business.
Will I be fighting any of your henchmen, or did you already eat them?
Not very fair. A human spider against an unarmed man.
Yeah, but each of your arms is the size of Brooklyn. Not so fast, Tubby. One word, liposuction.
In comparison to Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin's complexity and Spectacular's Tombstone's cunning intelligence, this version of Kingpin is pretty forgettable.
Go home, Parker.
Sir, you're not well.
Please, go. Now.
The Lizard has always been a tragic story about a scientist losing his arm and wanting to use his genius to bring it back. But this version leans more into a neo-noir horror direction, as Dr. Connors, voiced by Rob Zombie, is portrayed as bitter and hateful because he lost his arm while he was researching specimens and Oscorp was testing explosives in the area. And his lizard transformation is less about the consequences of playing with nature and more about a man's internal rage being brought to the surface in a monstrous form and being the cause of his demise. Unfortunately, this depiction wouldn't translate to Spider-Man 2 because Connors was still alive, but it's still a depiction worth watching.
What is that? Not what? Who?
Though Max Dillon makes an appearance before he becomes Electro, the episode The Party alone perfectly sets up his character and transformation, especially since Brian Michael Bendis himself wrote the episode, and at this time in his career, he was a master at making civilians in a superhero story compelling. So compelling that Electro in this show is probably the best on-screen version of the character. I'd even say this version was better than Spectacular. Though Max wants to make new friends and fit in, he is constantly bullied to the point his life is put in danger, and he feels completely alone. Now, the way he gets his powers is pretty outlandish by comic book standards. Basically, Max becomes Electro because he's standing in front of a neon sign as it's being struck by lightning. Electro kills his bully Doug, but his mind is so twisted he views everyone as Doug. After Spider-Man defeated Electro, he would return in a later episode as this ghost-like presence trying to turn his crush Sally into another Electro so he doesn't feel alone. Whereas in Spectacular, Max is turned into Electro in the first 5 minutes of the episode and spends the rest of it upset at his transformation and threatening Connors to change him back. And though Connors is being incredibly calm despite the situation, Max doesn't listen and just attacks. I'm not saying it's an unrealistic reaction, but the storyline feels so rushed. Max's sudden descent into villainy doesn't elicit the intended feeling from the spectators. In Tenace, Max's character has more time to cook before the transformation, so the spectators can connect to him.
Note to self. Get someone tougher than Buzzcut. Try local Girl Scouts.
Silver Stable's an assassin who targets criminals without caring for collateral damage. Try saying that 5 times fast. But Peter manages to grab a shot of her, so instead of going after Spider-Man, Stable wants to silence Peter to cover her tracks. We never find out who hired her, but it is likely we would have seen her again if the series continued.
Let her go. I'll do whatever you want.
What I want is to see you suffer.
No!
Kraven the Hunter is designed to be less of a big game jungle hunter and more international criminal with a specific weapon specialization. It was confirmed that he'd return for season 2, and I would have liked to have seen more of him since Kraven doesn't really get to stand on his own. His rivalry with Spider-Man is set up in a tale we'll never see, and his storyline is more about the Gaines twins, but I'll get into them later. All things considered, Michael Dorn doesn't phone in his performance as Kraven, and his fights with Spider-Man have decent choreography and give a good idea of his skill level. Though unfortunately the writers couldn't use all of Spidey's villains for the series, especially Green Goblin and Doc Ock, since one died and the other was being used in the next movie, but they made up for it with original villains made for the series.
Later.
Turbojet is the first series original, possibly based on Rocket Racer or Blue Streak. He is a janitor at ESU and a resident of a building that is being torn down for new campus facilities. He steals a kind of propulsion suit to move at super speed, steal expensive artifacts, and fence them for money, though the public revere him as a modern-day Robin Hood since he coincidentally leaves cash for the protest committee. Meanwhile, the public start to hate Spider-Man because he doesn't do the same thing. It's sort of a mild commentary on how public opinion can be easily swayed when they're angry and don't have all the facts.
You shouldn't have sent your men to kill me.
It was Raymond, not me. He's such a hothead.
At least he has a head.
Shikata is the best of the original series villains because everything the spectators need to know about her isn't explained by some long-winded exposition dump that throws off the flow of the narrative, but instead her powers, beliefs, and motivations are shown with every scene she's in. Shikata is a mercenary who is hired to capture Spider-Man for some rich guy's animal collection. After fighting him, she finds Spider-Man to be a worthy opponent, and Shikata's code of honor deems they must instead fight to the death. Her abilities come from her sword, and appears to have some connection to the moon, not only healing her injuries and granting a unique form of telekinesis, but keeping her eternally young. So to end the fight, Spidey breaks the sword, and she fades away, dying due to the loss of her eternal youth.
Yeah. Best dressed? Please, the girls got hips like snack trays.
Talon is the show's replacement for Black Cat. She's a thief, though unlike Turbojet, she doesn't steal for money because Talon has access to her own family trust fund. She instead steals objects of personal significance for the thrill. What really makes Talon stand out in the series is how her plotline meshes with the dual identity aspect of Spider-Man, as her civilian persona Cheyenne is dating Harry, and only Peter knows who she really is, and spends the episode trying to figure out how to tell Harry without hurting his feelings, and convincing Cheyenne to stop stealing without revealing his identity. The episode ends with Talon getting shot, escaping the police, and leaving New York, and the last we hear of her is when she's breaking up with Harry over the phone. It is possible she would have returned since other villains had made recurring appearances in the one season and were planned to if the show was renewed, but the episode's plot ends so abruptly, Talon's story doesn't get a satisfying conclusion.
Allow me to introduce ourselves. We are Pterodax, a name given us affectionately with a nod to our winged dinosaur friends.
Pterodax is basically Hans Gruber and his squad with jetpacks, but without the Christmas spirit. They're a group of ex-KGB operatives turned thieves with sci-fi weapons who want to steal diamonds. Nothing too deep.
Shoot now. The driver. Shoot, then set us free. Shoot. Shoot.
The Gaines twins are the final villains of the series, and they leave the most impact. Both their parents were experimented on by the KGB, and they in turn inherited psychic abilities, though it is only by working together that they are at their strongest. However, when they were children, Kraven killed their parents. During an escape attempt, they put Spider-Man under an illusion where Kraven killed MJ, putting Peter on the warpath to revenge. But throughout the illusion, there are moments when it breaks just enough to let the audience know something is amiss. Like Spider-Man pushing MJ off a building, then catching her without her getting upset. Or Jonah offering Peter a bonus for the photos he's brought when he's previously been stingy.
That makes these photos worth $40.
Great. Times 6 is $240.
And Bolivian pesetas, maybe. And Los Estados Unidos is still $40 for all 6. Take it or leave it. Get me the goods on Craven and I'll double your rate. A 2-for-1 special.
And then there are moments when the shot cuts to Spider-Man screaming and clutching his head, like when he was fighting the twins, making it obvious that there is something amiss. Had the animators removed those flashy cuts, it would probably encourage the spectators to re-watch the episode and find all the clues.
There's no 2-for-1 special, Petey.
There isn't?
No!
Get me the goods on Craven and I'll double your rate. A 2-for-1 special.
2-for-1 special.
You heard me.
My regular rate is fine, actually.
The twins use their abilities in sadistic ways, like forcing their guards to shoot each other, torturing MJ with horrifying dreams, and manipulating Peter with illusions. The worst thing they do is tricking Spider-Man into pushing Indy off a building, making her look like the sister. Everyone in New York hears about it and calls for Spider-Man's head. And Indy doesn't get better at the end of the episode. She's comatose, and the doctors aren't sure if she'll ever wake up. The final battle with the twins ends the series with a bang, literally, with the brother sedated and the sister blowing herself up. If the series continued, the brother might have made a return, though both were in the building when it blew up, and they both found out Spider-Man's identity. That's basically a kiss of death in the Raimi trilogy. The new animated series ends with Harry having renewed his anger for Spider-Man, MJ feeling alone, Indy in a coma, and Peter throwing his suit into the river. Another bittersweet conclusion to a Spider-Man series. And though the show's continuity didn't have the same level of planning or consistency as Spectacular Spider-Man, its mature style of writing, animation, and overall tone makes the series worth a watch. And like Spectacular, there are lessons to be learned from TNAS for when Marvel makes its new Spider-Man cartoon. That Spidey doesn't have to be just for children. If you're a Spider-Man fan, check out the series.